On November 12, 2019, the Washington Diplomat hosted an all-day global diplomatic education conference to convene embassy representatives, the private sector, universities, and other educational institutions at the Embassy of France in Washington, D.C. Participants discussed the latest developments in education and issues that are critical to foreign students coming to the United States and their foreign governments, which have a vested interest in finding top educational opportunities for their nationals. Speakers examined the future education trends, including the skills needed to adapt to a 21st century world, as well as other pertinent political developments affecting the field.
We're bringing together universities and schools all over the country to meet with all the embassies here. There's a lot of global education conferences or education conferences in general, but not too many that focus on foreign students coming into the U.S. and focuses on embassies, and that is our exclusive focus, and that's what makes us a little bit different. This is a niche conference that brings these two people together. This conference was created to connect U.S. academia, which includes schools and universities, organizations, corporations with the diplomatic community. And we also have several K-12 schools outside exhibiting, so please visit them as well. We also created a program to listen to new ideas, to analyze where we are, and to figure out where we're going.
It's a pleasure to welcome you for this first global education conference in the Embassy of France. The mission statement of the Washington Diplomat, which convened this conference, and that of the Embassy of France are indeed similar: to build bridges across cultures and nations, and in our case today, to make higher education accessible to all across borders and languages.
Here at the Washington Diplomat, we are known for our sort of bread and butter, which is analyzing world affairs, politics, ambassador interviews, and covering the local diplomatic scene. But from our very beginning, we've also regularly featured education stories because we recognize the importance of education to virtually every other field, whether it's diplomacy, defense, or business.
I think nothing is more exciting than the ability to work on international education. Why is this so important? Why would it matter that America have these international students? Well, we think new business models and business as a future needs international understanding. American businesses benefit from these students studying in the United States. We also believe that advancements in science and technology are driven in no small part by having the best and brightest minds from around the world in our laboratories. Our next generation of global leaders who understand the United States and appreciate American values like academic freedom and the rule of law, things that become part of your DNA in an American classroom, are also another important reason we focus on international students for those shared foreign policy goals.
For international students, the decision to attend United States educational institutions is not a small decision, and there are a lot of steps they have to take. And it takes a lot of careful planning and preparations. One of the important steps students need to take is to apply for visa. And to obtain one, to remain in compliance with immigration regulations while in that visa status, and understanding what is required to obtain visa, to enter the United States with one, and to ensure uninterrupted stay. This is exactly the focus of our today's panel.
At the George Washington University, we have F1 students and J1 students. The State Department was representing the J1 side. We have a majority of F. That's the big majority that comes to our institution. To get that visa, the students have to be admitted. And this is a very quick run through, right? There's a lot that goes into that process of admission, being issued an immigration document, either one kind for the F or another kind for the J. That's given to the student who goes to the embassy and can apply for the visa after paying the CVIS fee. Hopefully that all goes well, they get a visa stamp and can enter the United States. To graduate, absolutely, the most important part is them focusing on their academic career, but also many of them want to work after graduation or perhaps during, and making sure what they're doing is in compliance with the law so that they don't fall out of status.
what is the Bureau of Consular Affairs' top priority when adjudicating student visa applications?
So the State Department's top priority in issuing any visa is national security, of course. We have extensive vetting that we do for any foreign traveler into the United States. So, of course, student visas are no different. But like Das Casagran said this morning, the State Department absolutely recognizes the critical importance of international students in the United States. We actively do campaigns when we're overseas in foreign countries, trying to explain to students before they even start the process of applying for a visa, how the process is, get them comfortable with what's going to happen when they come to the embassy, try to demystify the process.
What documents are required?
F1 for academic students, J1 for exchange visitors, and also the corresponding paperwork. What I mean is the I-20AB for the F1 student and the DS-2019 for the J1 exchange visitors.
Ken conceived and led the 2015 launch of AWS Educate, Amazon's global initiative to provide K-20 educators and students with the resources needed to enter a cloud-enabled workforce.
21st century skills are absolutely vital, but there's other competencies that are also important. We often tie them into Amazon leadership principles. We have 14 leadership principles. Not only do we use those in hiring, but we use them in evaluating, and we use them to make decisions upon. Some of these new competencies that we find important, dealing with ambiguity, jobs change, industries change at rapid speed. Are we preparing students to be ready for this ambiguous world? I have to retrain people when they come into my team constantly to be able to be comfortable and deal with ambiguity. Yet, when an interviewer comes into my office and I ask them, what questions do they have? One of the first ones is generally, what's your average day like? They haven't studied Amazon deeply enough. Things change too rapidly. There is no average day at Amazon. Thank you.
Julie, can you tell us perhaps about one or two specific innovation programs at ASU that you're particularly excited about?
You've probably heard about Uber and you've heard about Starbucks. These are partnerships that we've developed to allow employees at those companies to use an educational benefit to where they can get an undergraduate degree at Arizona State completely for free. And I think, some of the challenges that we've encountered with a program like that is some of those employees have tried higher education several times. Maybe they went to their local community college. Maybe they have a transcript with a GPA from those schools of less than 2.0. And so even though they have this educational benefit would give them free education, they're not directly admittable through normal processes at Arizona State University. So we've decided we're not going to turn any students away, but actually give them a path where they can earn admissions into Arizona State.
Jeff, you're with a company, IBM, that invented everything from the ATM to our AI buddy, the Watson computing system. Can you talk to us more about AI's impact on the global workforce?
At IBM, we believe that 100% of jobs are going to be impacted and changed by AI. And so we believe, as a global company that's partly responsible for helping to drive that change, that we're also responsible for investing in solutions to both help educate professionals who are entering the workforce, but also to help reskill mid-career professionals to make sure that they can compete. I think that Ken mentioned this earlier as well, but I think this is the first time on record that we have more jobs in the U.S. Than we have unemployed active job seekers. And right now there are more technology jobs than we can really fill.
Can you talk to us about the trends you've seen in helping executives and older workers and leaders keep up with the 21st century workforce, and how education and innovation is important not only to younger students, but to workers of all ages?
In the U.S. education, what we aim to teach is the skills of critical thinking. And I think critical thinking, it's really the ability to help us think how we think. So in education or in executive education, we're no longer doing this feeding you information, which is competence in a particular area, which I think is really important because you need to have certain skills. And it's really about this idea of navigating, helping people navigate to get where they need to get. There's 4 things that Noah Hariri from there is a book out there on 21 lessons for the 21st century. And what he says is that there are 4 things that we need to focus for the future. And that is critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, and I'll add the 5th out there, it's curiosity. Curiosity and imagination. Create conditions in your workplaces, in your environments for people to think, to learn how to think.
I would like to welcome to the stage our next speaker, Dr. Sanjeev Kagram, who is the Dean of Arizona State University's Thunderbird School of Global Management. And he wants to talk about ASU's global outreach and offer some reflections on immigrant success stories.
At Thunderbird, we're involved in the full range of lifelong learning, from the bottom of the pyramid, women entrepreneurs and refugee entrepreneurs like myself and what I was a long time ago, all the way to the senior leaders and managers, CEOs, heads of state, ministers, heads of nonprofits around the world. Our goal is to make sure at Thunderbird that we train the next generation of global leaders and managers to maximize the benefits of this great globalization 4.0 and bring the world together. Our goal at ASU, as I said, is to really be a beacon of innovation and inclusion for impact at global scale.
We have Anthony Clark Arend, who is a professor of government and foreign service at Georgetown University, and he's going to talk to us about building future leaders.
How does the student choose between competing goods or competing bads? How does the student go about making decisions when there is no good decision, where any decision will inevitably result in bad things? How do they apply this mode of ethical reasoning? The goal is to make people better leaders, meaning to equip them to do no less than change the world. Because after all, that's what leadership is about. Whether it's in the private sector, the public sector, or the nonprofit sector.
Fig O'Reilly is a systems engineer who obtained her bachelor's here from GW. She works remotely from Dublin as a director for NASA's International Space Apps Challenge, she's also part of the NASA Data Knots program, where she advocates for women and diversity in technology.
I've learned that innovation, creation, and ideation are the tools to success because they absolutely have been so for me. So, to everyone watching and to any young girls out there, please know that education is the key to your future. It absolutely has been mine.
Following up on some of your work at State in terms of the Science and Technology Fellowship, which places scientists and engineers at federal agencies in D.C. Can you just tell us more about what this program does? And also, is there a specific focus there on elevating women and scientists and engineers?
Every year they place over 200 people in agencies across the U.S. and across D.C. And so that includes the State Department, but then also like NSF and NIH. And the idea is to inject more scientists into the policymaking process to inform what's happening in government. And it doesn't have like a women focus necessarily, although I did look it up before I came, and the ratio of men to women at State in the fellowship is about 50-50.
Well, Megan, I want to switch over to you. You're a senior fellow in the Women in Foreign Policy program at the Council on Foreign Relations. And And you recently co-authored a report along with Rachel Vogenstein for CFR on the importance of investing in girls' STEM education in developing countries.
You know, talking about the future can sound really far away. This is not far away. You know, automation, the digital economy, it's here now. And our foreign aid needs to change. It needs to iterate, as it would in many of the countries that many of you represent probably as well. Some countries are better than others on looking at this, but we all need to kind of rethink how are we funding girls' education to prepare for the future and empower these girls to really have agency. That's the goal.
Coming back to the U.S., so Tita, as Deputy Director of the Office of International Visitors in the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, you've been on the front lines of the State Department's efforts to bring foreign leaders here for short-term visits. This includes women from all over the world who are pursuing STEM careers. Can you just tell us a little bit more about some of these initiatives?
We have a variety of exchange programs. So the IVLP is a short-term one of 3 weeks only for mid-career professionals. But especially in the area of STEM, and I can go back to the IVLP later, but there have been innovations in the last couple of years. So 2011, for example, the project Tech Women got started. We just had that project here in town a couple of weeks ago, started in the end of September. Like some of our other projects, it's one that's geared toward particular regions. So it includes women from Africa, from Central Asia, and from the Middle East. Since 2011, we've had over 600 participants. They come to the San Francisco Bay and Silicon Valley area for 4 weeks and then come to Washington and work with mentors, go to companies.
I want to welcome to the podium Dr. Mirka Martel. She is who serves as she is head of research, evaluation, and learning at the Institute of International Education.
So in 2018, for the third year in a row, we saw over 1 million international students in the United States. This was an increase of 1.5%. And when you look at the trend, and here we have a 30-year trend of international student enrollment in the United States, we've really seen a great increase in the amount of international students choosing the United States as their academic destination. When we start to parse out the type of opportunity that international students pursue, we see that OPT, or optional practical training, has become a larger proportion of this pie. And optional practical training is a wonderful opportunity that international students are afforded after their degree program in the United States to stay on and pursue a work experience. And we have seen larger increases in the last couple of years due to a policy change in 2016 that allowed those students who had been pursuing STEM fields to stay on for up to 36 months through the STEM OPT extension.
We're very fortunate to have 3 representatives from a broad range of countries who can give us firsthand insights into how their governments are working to facilitate international exchange.
In 2005, King Abdullah, God rest his soul, started a new program, the Scholarship Abroad program, where we started to send a lot of students to the United States. And the purpose for the program was twofold. One is to get a solid education, but the other one was for the cultural exchange. We wanted our students to, not only to get the good education, but we wanted them to interact with people from different cultures. We've sent students to the United States, to different countries in Europe. We've sent them to Asia, Arab countries. About half of the students that were sent abroad came to the United States.
China and the US have actually been exchanging students for 40 years. And as we saw in the previous panel, out of all the countries today, China by far sends the most students here to study in the US.
The general policy actually from the government is to support student exchanges. And also the government provide a lot of support and scholarship programs for study abroad and also for study in China. I was looking at the PPT, from the previous presentation. China is now actually number 3 for the destination of international students. And I agree with you that because the development of our higher education system, many students may choose to stay to study in China. But still, the government is encouraging study abroad.
Can you talk to us about the pros that you emphasize to French students about studying abroad here?
The French embassy has been doing a lot in order to create relationships between France and the US. And for example, they have several programs in order to encourage study abroad programs and research collaborations. And one of them is a transatlantic friendship and mobility initiatives that actually enables either researchers or American students to partner with a French institution and either a lab or another institution in France, so that it allows two institutions to engage in a project that they can actually going to perform all together. So this is really important.
We really, really appreciate everyone coming out on a cold start to winter, and we really hope that this was a valuable conference for you. Thank you.
The Washington Diplomat is an independent monthly publication and media company with a readership of more than 200,000. The Diplomat has served as the flagship newspaper of the diplomatic and international community in Washington, D.C. and New York for the past 25 years, and it is the only publication distributed to all 185 foreign embassies in the nation's capital.